Good morning, midday or evening here from Austria. My name is Barbara, and together with my colleague Professor Ecker from the University of Applied Sciences in Salzburg, we are looking forward presenting you our latest research on topic modeling of tourist dining experiences based on the globe model. Let's start with how and why we came up with this topic. We are a research team of 4 different nationalities: Austria, Germany, Indonesia, and China. And during dinner, we realized our opinions about a dining experience could not be more different. Fabian and me, we focused on the menu offer, while Angela and Ruhong put emphasis on the waiters, if they are nice, and also to have an authentic local experience in a restaurant. So we all have different needs, and working in the field of tourism, we know that to identify these needs is crucial for tourism providers to establish and maintain up-to-date services and products. And this led to our research question: which aspects of the dining experience are important for visitors, in our case, the city of Salzburg in Austria, according to the cultural backgrounds? And during this era of the experience economy, businesses should design their products and services taking into consideration the full range of effects that can be evoked from an interaction between the consumers and the service offerings, which is heavily based on experiences. And in the context of restaurants, researchers have established different service quality models to identify these elements that are influential to customer satisfaction and experiences. For example, the SurfQual instrument representing the most widely used model. We also have the DineSurf model, which is specifically focusing on the dining experiences. But both the interaction also between the customers and employees, rather than on the products, the customer fulfillment, or the post-dining behavioral intention. But the dining experience also includes tangible factors, like is it a nice building exterior, a menu, or a clean dining area, which all come into place. And well, another obstacle also was how to get to know the opinion of hundreds of travelers from different cultures without leaving the office, because we did the research now in a pandemic, a time of travel restrictions without travelers. But this was no problem with our research design, because all these opinions we gathered on TripAdvisor. And these online reviews allow connections to a place or origin or a culture. And to classify the people with different cultural backgrounds, one of the most common approaches is based on Hofstede's cultural dimension theory. Researchers further modified and transformed the Hofstede model into the globe model, implementing more characteristics, like, for example, the uncertainty avoidance of specific culture, the power distance, the future orientation, and so on. And as you can see here on the right side, in order to make the globe model applicable or practical for us in multinational societies, a model of regional cultural clusters across the world was developed as well. And these are the cultures we used in our research. We have, for example, the Confucian Asian cluster with the countries Singapore, Hong Kong, and China. On the right side, the Nordic Europe culture, also with Denmark, Finland, and Sweden. And now I would like to hand over to Roman, my colleague, to elaborate our research design.
Hello, also from my side. Thank you, Barbara. So we did a mixed method approach, and we used a cross-sectional study in order to answer our research question. Salzburg is a stronghold of culinary arts with currently over 3,500 culinary businesses. With an intensive tourism industry, Salzburg as a use case offers sufficient data to analyze the tourist perception of dining experiences with their different cultural backgrounds. So as Barbara just mentioned, our study is based on reviews from TripAdvisor. And we used Octoparse as a crawling software to collect restaurant attributes such as restaurant names, the review content, of course, then the restaurant URLs, but also the dates when the reviews were written and where reviewers come from. We crawled only reviews written in English and scraped about 27,600 reviews. We limited those reviews to those published between 1st of May and 30th of October 2019 to view data before the outbreak of COVID-19, resulting in about 1,900 reviews. We then classified these reviews according to the cultural background of the users who wrote them. If we didn't have the country of origin, we deleted the reviews and finally ended up with 1,461 reviews. We then did pre-process the text, applied topic modeling, in the specific case, latent directly allocation, did the data analysis, and then at the very end, of course, interpreted the results. So we treated these reviews as our corpus and had to pre-process the text. Pre-processing was done by tokenizing the text, by lowercasing, removing punctuations and numbers, removing stop words, and normalizing words by removing suffixes. Then, as I said before, we applied LDA, so latent directly allocation, and we came up with a number of different topics. And in order to visualize these topics and to get a better understanding of the topics, we applied multidimensional scaling. This allowed us to get a better overview of the topics, and it helped us to, on the one hand side, visualize the topics, but also to see the distances between the topics and to see any overlappings. We then extracted the keywords per topic, which helped us to name the different topics. But these keywords were also used for document embedding. So per topic, we had a number of different keywords, and we embedded them with fast text. And by this, we were able to, so we vectorized them, and we were able to visualize them on a map. So we applied t-SNE as a dimensionality reduction technique to be able to plot these originally high dimensional vectors on a 2D plane. And this is what we see here on the next slide. So these are the vectorized topics within the globe space. And we can see that, for example, Latin Europe on the left side and Latin America are very close together. So this means that the 3 topics we could extract from Latin Europe and those 2 topics from Latin America are quite similar. Okay, so they are grouped very nicely together within each cultural dimension, but they are very close together. Okay, which makes sense, Latin and Latin. And the same with the Confucian Asian and the Southern Asian here in the middle, or with the Europeans on the right side. And next, it's time for Barbara again to talk a little bit about the interpretation process.
Now I would like to briefly point out the direction we took to achieve the final data interpretation after getting the results from our machine learning technique. First, we had to familiarize with the data set. This is where the reading and rereading take place to get an in-depth understanding of the review content. The second phase was the initial themes generation. In this step, we organized the data systematically by the highest to the lowest topic way to acquire a general theme. The third phase is the initial themes validation using review excerpts and drafting the preliminary interpretation. At this stage, one author developed initial themes after reviewing the data for interpretation, and at this phase, the dining aspect was named. The fourth phase, the last phase, is the co-author's reviews and final interpretation. This is where the preliminary interpretation was being reviewed by second author for feedback, and the revision based on a feedback is used to produce the final interpretation. The final interpretation was then reviewed by the remaining co-authors to increase objectivity and ensure the comprehensiveness. On the next slide, I will show you an example of one interpretation item from our research, here the cluster of Latin America. And the important common aspect here is food authenticity. So findings showed that for the Latin American cluster, it is important for businesses to deliver their brand promise in terms of food authenticity. One expects, for example, here on the top, an Italian restaurant to deliver their Italian cuisine par excellence, or an Austrian restaurant to serve authentic Austrian food. Although food authenticity shares similar conditions with food quality, it is, however, still quite distinctive that what businesses claim to serve should be delivered up to par excellence for this cluster of Latin America to deem it satisfactory. The next slide over here visualizes the finding of this research. Before I start going through, I'd like to point out the legend on the bottom here on the left side. On top of the color-coded cultural clusters, the text bubble, which is also color-coded, represents the main findings. In lime green represents the similar behavior across cultures. The light blue represents the clusters that share common dining aspects, does not always have the same perspective of the said aspects. And finally, gray represents some of the distinct or unique behavior displayed by clusters. And to be more exact, I would like to start with the lime green points. Both Anglo and Germanic Europe clusters appreciate the comfort, pleasant outlook, and dining venue locations. And the Germanic and Nordic Europe share the common value of being particularly menu offers observant. They pay attention if restaurants offer local beer or a vegetarian menu. Moving on to the light blue points, Anglo and Germanic Europe think that the location is vital, whereas Southern Asia puts more emphasis on the inner part of the restaurant, like the decor or interior. The Nordic appreciate the authentic Austrian atmosphere while dining, for example, the view of Salzburg Fortress, while the Germanic Europe is more fond of the staged atmosphere. They appreciate the staff's engagement to create fun experience, the open air atmosphere, and the dining moments. Interestingly, the Southern Asian associated values for money with portion, while the Eastern Europe sees it linked with the price sensitivity. Lastly, the gray points. The Southern Asian pays attention to the outlook of the personnel, for the staff, their grooming, smile, if there are visible tattoo or piercings. Meanwhile, the Confucian Asian tend to search for their own cultural cuisine when visiting destinations. So visitors from China tend to search for Chinese restaurants. Good. Now for the practical implications of our research, especially for a destination management organization, hotels, or other tourism service provider. This is a hands-on approach to transform user-generated content into structural pattern. So the preferences that can be discovered are valuable information for business strategies and offerings. DMOs and others implement findings in their strategic content marketing. Regarding the theoretical implications, the attribute of food was the most influential criterion. Furthermore, with this research gives further implications regarding text mining and machine learning to analyze user-generated content in the context of tourism. Some limitations: we utilized only the English reviews, and it would be interesting to process further languages like Spanish to get more insight into the Latin American cluster. This could lead to different outcomes. The cultural cluster is based on the reviewer's stated place of residence in the TripAdvisor profile. So they also could be born in another country, which does not mean where they live if the cultural cluster fits yes or no. Here in the case, in the city of Salzburg in Austria, there was no data of the sub-Saharan African cluster, Therefore, for further research, we recommend a large data density representing all 10 global cultural clusters, which could be possible investigations, big city like New York, Shanghai, or Tokyo. And to also find out other preferences, not only for the dining experience, but could also be cultural preferences regarding attractions or accommodations. But thank you very much. We're looking forward to your questions, and perhaps your dining preferences correspond to the ones in our research or not.